Well, I've been kind of enthused about, honestly, especially knowing that I'm not going to have to lead this one. Um, I, it's really been interesting. I think I've probably struggled with prayer more the last week than I have in a while. And I
Hmm.
was wondering today if, if God's kind of kicking my self-confidence out here so I can talk about it in a helpful way. I
Yeah.
don't know. But it's just like, you know how it is sometimes, w- um prayer just it's hard to get there, you know.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. And I spent most of the day today thinking about prayer and listening to stuff on prayer, and I still don't. I, I I'm uncertain why it is that way. I mean, I'm more and more believing that God really does love me and is interested in me. That's still a journey I'm on to really believe it. But why is it so difficult to pray consistently and often?
I was thinking of something Alex said the other day. um I feel like we're steeped in good teaching. Like, we
Hmm.
have so much good teaching. We go on Sunday morning and we're hearing the Bible taught like never before.
Yeah.
um you've got all the stuff you want to listen to, like,
Yeah.
all the different preachers we've talked about. And then if you have a small group you're a part of, and just like the amount of good teaching out there, sometimes it's like, it becomes, I don't know how to say it. You take it for granted, I think,
Hmm.
is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to get into that mindset, or that I want to say feeling, where you feel like God is there,
Yeah.
like, you have a lot of knowledge, but I don't know. It's just been an interesting week for me in that regard.
Yeah. So as you were speaking, I was thinking about what it must have been like for Jesus' disciples because, they were all Jews, I believe, because that was the culture that he was a part of. Jesus was a Jew. And so they knew all about the rituals and, all of that, and they had their religious structure. And then, they started following Jesus around and they saw his life. And then this is something that impressed me today is in Luke 11. It's one of the recordings of the Lord's Prayer. It says there in Luke 11. Now Jesus was praying in a certain place, and when he finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray, as John taught his disciples." And then he gave them what we now call the Lord's Prayer. But I would love to have seen that scene there, because obviously Jesus was praying and his disciples were observing. That would have been really cool to see that. And when he got finished praying, they were impressed enough, and there must have been something different enough than what they were accustomed to, that they were like, "Hey, teach us how to do that." I think that's a really interesting
Mhm.
thing to think about.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting.
I was thinking about the Westminster Catechism that says, what is the chief end of man? To I thought it was to know God, but I think it's to enjoy God.
To honor and
And so,
glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
yeah. Um, so I know that that doesn't mean, I mean, but I guess my thought, what I'm trying to say is that to enjoy someone, you have to know them.
Hmm.
You know, think about it like this. You can know a lot about somebody, data, details, even of their life, Um, you know, there's people that kind of know, customers that come into my place of business, they kind of know what I do. They see me doing what I do for work.
Hmm.
I might can tell them a few things that I have 4 children and I'm married and go to church and they can know some details about my life and data. They don't know me. They don't know me at all. And I wonder how many so-called Christians today know a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of things about God, but they can never get to enjoying God because they really don't know him. And I think that's what prayer does for us. Prayer is how we actually learn to know God. It's how we enjoy God. It's through prayer. It's through a lot of different things, but I think primarily, actually, we enjoy God through prayer. So, and it's primarily how we learn to have an intimate relationship with Him is through that. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can learn to know about God's essence, is who He is, and theology, but relationally, without prayer, we'll never get there, will we?
So I would like for us to define what prayer actually is at some point. But before we get too deep into that, I'd like to go back just a little bit and talk some about our concept of God, because there's a quote here from A.W. Tozer, um, that I thought was really good, and it applies to this. It says this. It says, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." So
Mhm,
he's basically saying that what we think about God, our concept of God, is going to shape everything. And it obviously is going to shape our prayers, and if we pray and how we pray. And so, um, well, last week, Alex, you told us about your son telling God a joke. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about that this week. And I often laugh when I think about it because it still strikes me funny. But
mhm,
there's actually a tremendous amount of food for thought there, because I think, okay, here's what I find fascinating. You grew up, Alex, the way you grew up, and so did Kent and I. I mean, we all grew up the way we did, and I think we inherited a God, perhaps, from our parents, from our religious structure. We were kind of told this is who God is, this is how He is, and some of it we were taught, and some of it we just picked up. And a lot of it was probably wrong. And I think that's true for many people in this world, that you inherit a God. And then at some point, hopefully, you start learning to really know God. And so your son, I think, has inherited a God from you that I perceive to be a very healthy God, if I can say it that way. Or his concept of God is very healthy because he felt that level of friendship with God, that he could tell him a joke and
mhm.
not being goofy about it. It was genuine. And so I guess it made me start thinking about what kind of God did I inherit, and where am I right now in my concept of who God is, and where do I need to be going so I can have this. For me personally, I don't know if it's like this for you, but for me personally, I think that's where I need to start. I feel so. First of all, Kent, I feel like you. I need my prayers need to there just needs to be a lot more of them, and they need to be a lot different, better. I'm with you 100%. But I think the only
So,
way for it, what's that?
the easiest way to make a Christian feel really uncomfortable is to ask them about their prayer life and how meaningful it is.
Yep,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's kind of a
But I
universal
think the
thing.
I think the only way to improve it is to change our concept of God. That's what I think.
Hmm.
Or am I wrong?
Man, we could go so many different routes right here. Like, there's so many. This to me feels like a spider with like fingers that go everywhere. But one
Right?
thing is, we've talked about this before, the three of us, about our concept between the sacred and the secular, right?
Yeah.
And if God, I think all three of us maybe struggled with that in the past, where we separated the sacred and the secular, and God was not someone that um you took along with you on the everyday ride. He was
Right.
Mhm.
he was somebody at meal times, and somebody on Sunday morning, and maybe Wednesday night, or church, and maybe meal times, maybe family devotion, but you didn't think about God through the rest of the day. And here's this little thought that I had on that. And I think part of it is religious pride is the reason of that. Because if I see myself as a desperate, depraved person,
Mhm.
if I understand um my depravity, total depravity, the first point of the tulip. All right. Um, Total depravity. If I see myself as totally depraved, I desperately need God. I don't just need him on Sunday morning or in at devotion time in the evening or around the meal. I need God every minute of every day. So
Mhm.
you're right. Our concept of who God is, but I think along also with that, the concept of who we are, seeing our own depravity and seeing our desperate need of God. Um, we're going to we're going to be crying out to him a lot more often, asking him for help throughout every moment of our day if we actually see ourselves as someone in desperate need of him. If we see ourselves as this, if we're caught up in religious pride or pridefulness or, we don't need him, then what's the point of talking to him? What's the point of prayer if we
Mhm.
don't see ourselves as desperately in need of a God, right?
I I got something to read right here that's gonna perfectly picture, I think, what you're trying to say. Excuse me, what you said. Um, we don't have Alex trying to say nothing. He says it.
I
Um,
tried. I'd try.
This is out of Romans 7, and like one of the best sections in the Bible, as far as I'm concerned. um, so at we're kind of starting in the middle here, but verse 8 of chapter 7, but sin, seizing opportunity through the commandment, produced in me all kinds of covetousness. For apart from the law, sin lies dead. I was once alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin came alive and I died. The very commandment that promised life proved to be death to me. For sin, seizing an opportunity that promised life, proved to be death to me. Where'd I go here? For sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me, and through it killed me. All right.
Mhm.
So we could spend a while just digging through that because that can be a little bit confusing. How that, I think just for this evening, the takeaway can be, because of sin and the law showing me what sin is, I'm dead. I really can't.
Hmm.
I'm dead. All right. So then go to verse 12 of chapter 8. So then, brothers, we are debtors not to the flesh to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not
Mhm.
receive, this is the verse I really want. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father.
Mhm.
All right.
That's good.
Abba, if I would understand right, Abba would be the term that little kids called their daddy. It would be the term that kids today, like, it would relate to the term daddy
Yeah.
Hmm.
or dad. I don't know. But yeah, it's an intimate term.
Yeah.
And understanding that we're a family and that we're not, yes, I mean, this is not in any way minimizing the awesome power of God and who he is, but we're a family and this is our dad.
Yeah.
I
I
was
love
thinking
that picture.
I was thinking about something when you was talking, when both of you guys were talking, actually. Um, and I love that. Love those verses, love that picture, and love the fact you brought that up, Kent. But I was thinking about something when you said, Frank, we grew up the way we grew up.
Yeah.
And this is the thought that came to my mind. We didn't we didn't hear the full story.
Mhm.
Like we heard God was someone that you fear, and that he's holy and that he's righteous and just and all that. That is all true, very true. But it's also true that he's loving, that he wants an intimate relationship with us, and that, you know, um, yeah, I mean, he wanted it so much he sent his own son to the earth to die for us, and so to bring us back into right relationship with him. So I feel like for myself, and I'm not going to put this on anybody else. I just feel like for myself, growing up, I saw God as I saw one aspect or part of God, and I hyper focused on that, and I did not
Mhm.
see God as the loving God, the Father God, the endearing God, the God who wanted that relationship with me, like that
Yeah.
actually chose me and was calling me to himself and actually was wanting that connection or that relationship. And so I think that can be the challenge, is that we can end up with a truth. It's not, but it doesn't necessarily end up being the full picture, the full truth of who God is. Yes, he is justice. I mean, just he is holy, and but man, how quickly can we just get hyper focused on that and forget the the love aspect of it?
So, Kent, when you were talking there, well, first of all, Alex, I 100% agree with you that probably, and I don't think this is unique to us. I think a lot of people probably grow up with a distorted concept of God, and that
Hmm.
that has to be corrected. And I think God is pretty good at doing that if we let Him. Uh,
Right.
but what I was thinking about, Kent, is you referenced this term Abba, Father, um, and and you talked about how that is what little children would call their father in that language, whatever language that is. And when you think about a small child's relationship with his father, if it's a correct, if the relationship is right, it's actually a pretty good vision of what it should be like for us to think about God. Because I was thinking about my son. He's in this thing right now where he wants to, whenever I leave, he wants to go lock the door or put it. I act a lot of times he'll grab me and try to tell me I'm trapped or whatever. I think actually he just wants some interaction and physical contact is what I really think he wants. But here's what's interesting to me. I play along with that. We have every time I leave to go anywhere, usually there's a little bit of an interaction back and forth. And we're joking around with one another. He knows he can't keep me and hold me in the house, but we go back and forth. But here's my point. We have fun. But then like this morning I needed to go, and when I say, "Hey, I got to go now." It's over. There's no, there's, he respects the fact that he knows when I'm serious. And that's what I want with God. I want to be able to, I still can't tell him a joke like your son, Alex, but I would like to be able to go from that of
Hmm.
telling God a joke to then God saying, "Hey, that was a good joke, but now let's talk about this. This is something serious we need to talk about." I would like to
Hmm.
have that. I want to call that a mature concept of God, maybe is what it would be. I would like to have that. And I'm going to keep going a little bit. And I have this concept in my mind that if you have that kind of a relationship with God, you can approach him with anything with a level of comfort and confidence that will be amazing. And that then prayer will be what it's supposed to be, and it will have the results it's supposed to have. There, now
Hmm.
I'm finished for a little bit.
How do you get there?
By learning to know God better. And I think God wants to be known. I think he has promised I know that he has promised to reveal himself to those that look for him. And I think for myself, I'm really, really hard-headed when it comes to things like this. I have these things in my head that I think God is like this or like that or whatever. And it's very difficult for me to get rid of those. But I notice, for me, it's often in music, but I notice what I would say is God trying to reveal himself to me, trying to tell me this is how I am, this is who I am. And it's slowly getting through to me. Like there's a song by Judah. Um, I think the name is "I Am," and in that song, I think I've told you all this, but I'm going to tell you again. In that song, it's talking about our relationship with God, and in the song, it talks about God. I can't quote the exact words, but basically, it says that God is a father who would give everything just to have us with him, or just to have a
Hmm.
relationship with us. Of course, the song has a good lyrical way of saying it. But I remember running. I listened to that song over and over and over while I was running for probably a couple weeks. I'd be running at night. And I listen to other songs some too, but I listened to that song many, many times just because of some of those lyrics in there. And it started sinking in that that's really true. That God really, really gave his son to be so he could have a relationship with me. And it's starting to sink in. And I think, and this is something you've preached to me, both of y'all, but we have to preach the gospel to ourselves. And for me, those kind of things finally I feel like are making a difference.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe there's a faster way. I want there to be a faster way. I want you to be able to tell me, and then I want to hear it and comprehend it, and I want it to change in my mind that fast. That's what I want.
Yeah, of course.
Now I
Man,
think
that'd be
that,
great.
yeah, I agree. That would be great. But I think that, well, I don't know if it would be though. We, what is the saying that we don't value what comes too easily sometimes?
True.
And I wonder sometimes if God, not that he plays hard to get with us, but there is an aspect where he wants us to seek him. He wants us to intentionally pursue him as well. I
Yeah.
think that is part of the definition of relationship
Hmm.
is two people with intention pursuing one another or engaging with one another.
Right.
And I think that there can be this idea inside of my reformed head that just says, well, it's all up to God.
Hmm.
But I do also, and I know ultimately it is. I don't,
Right.
that's something I know to be true. He's sovereign and it is ultimately up to him. But I also know that there's this human responsibility, my part to play where I must seek God. I must earnestly pursue him and desire him. And because the word promises us if we, what does it say? If we seek, we'll find. If we knock, the door will be open.
Yep.
If we ask, it'll be given. So it doesn't say, oh, the doors are going to open and you're going to be given everything. And it says, if you do these things. So there is a
Hmm.
part I think that we play in the pursuit of God, in the pursuit of seeking after him, in the pursuit of trying to, um, stir our affections or get them stirred for God, or I don't know. I struggle, as well trying to have that intimate relationship with God. But one thing that helps me is in the morning before I even roll out of bed, just to lay there and start and talk to him. Like, God,
Hmm.
all these things are coming down the pipeline today, and I desperately need you before I even roll out of this bed. I need your grace. I heard something that was interesting. This is a little side note, but in a sermon a couple weeks ago, one of our pastors preached this. He said that actually the believer um, is in more desperate need of God's grace than the unbeliever. So the believer relies on God's grace like rocket fuel, to power us through this life. Like we are burning God's grace like crazy. The unbeliever is walking in his unbelief, but as a believer, and I feel that desperate need of God's grace,
Hmm.
to get me through the day. So I think, but yeah, there is a there, and I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on that. What is my responsibility in the pursuit of this relationship with God?
So, I've been amazed, I've been, I don't know what you wanna call it, trying to learn what it takes to run a business for the last 3 years, kind of at a intense level, and, I told Carla here a while back, I it it really kinda blows my mind how similar everything that I learn about personal growth, about business growth, all of this is so is so similar to how the gospel works.
Uh-huh.
Um, Jim Rohn has a quote that I love, and I think I've told y'all before, but you don't get success by chasing after it. Success is attracted by the person you become.
Uh-huh.
And I got a business coach. That was one part of my journey for my business, and he can be extremely frustrating sometimes because he kind of tells me how do I say? I don't know exactly. He kind of tells me the result I'm supposed to get, but he doesn't
Hmm.
tell me how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes figuring that out is really, really aggravating. And yeah, it's just been really tough sometimes. It takes a lot of study. You know, I've spent a fair amount of money on classes, on conferences, on just different things to try to figure out what does this look like.
Yep.
Well, three years down the road, I can look back and say, I'm not the person I was 3 years ago.
Right.
Hmm.
Isn't that
But
encouraging?
but in the moment, it can be really frustrating because you don't feel like you're getting anywhere.
Exactly.
And yeah, it just what I'm realizing more and more is life is really simple in a way. And even well, the gospel we know is very simple, but living the Christian life, it's it in one way is really, really hard. Like we've talked about this. What's our responsibility? You know,
Hmm.
we believe that God gives the power, God gives the knowledge. It's all Him. Well, what do we do? But I like what you said there, Alex. Because it does depend on what we do. But I'm wanting to know God. I'm wanting to know who Jesus is.
Hmm.
And that's my motivation. And that's a really different motivation than I'm a Christian, so therefore I have to study the Bible 20 minutes a day.
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. And I have this. Okay, when I really want something and am enthused about it and interested in it, I can spend huge amounts of time thinking about it and reading about it and researching it. And I mean, I can stay up late and miss sleep, and I can do all that. And I can hardly help myself. It's not I don't make myself do it. It just happens.
Hmm.
Well,
You want it.
exactly. And there are times when I have had that in my pursuit of Christ, but so many times it goes away. And well, it's kind of like Alistair Begg said today in one of his sermons that I listened to, that it's a little bit like exercise. There are times when I'm really enthused and I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I really am enthused. But give me a week, and and I won't be as enthused anymore. And
Right.
that's kind of sad.
But that's human, right? Like
Yeah.
I I've been going to the gym pretty regular for a couple years now.
Hmm.
And the last 2 to 3 weeks, my work schedule has changed and
Oh no.
it has been so hard. And like I'm getting there one day a week.
Yeah.
And it is amazing how quickly you can slip out of the habit, like feeling like
Yeah.
this is something that needs to happen. I I know that I think that's why we got to have people around us who are on the same journey. And we
Yes.
have to be in interaction with these people because
Hmm.
they're the people, that's the fire that lights you up when your wood's wet.
Yeah. And yes, you're exactly right, Kent. The people around you are really, really important. Um, and what? Okay, first of all, I got something to say, but I got to say this first. On your thing of going to the gym, so I had that same experience with running. I ran like I don't know for probably a year, and like I didn't think about whether I was going to do it. I just went and did it, just faithfully. And then we had a hurricane come through here, and then the next week a hurricane hit y'all up there in Georgia, and I went up there for a week to help out. And then when I got back, well, I it broke my habit, and I was out of the habit, and it was over. I just quit, and I regret it tremendously. It's so screwed up. But if I believe if I had had two or three guys that I was training that I was training with for a race or something that was happening in 3 months, I would have got back to it. So
Right.
that accountability thing is really important. Uh, I had something else I was going to say, but now I forgot it.
Well, I mean, that's what we're doing here for like, whether anybody else receives anything off this podcast, this is great for me.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
y'all guys hold me accountable. And Yeah, it just and my lunches with Pastor Wade on Thursday, like
Hmm.
he doesn't he doesn't cut any slack. He's gonna tell me what he thinks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it's just like if you've got people you go to the gym with, you're not gonna let them down. You're gonna
Hmm.
go there.
Yeah.
Um, makes a difference.
I th I think even with that, I think this even comes into, play when we're talking about prayer. I think if we wanna, if we wanna pray more, get around people that pray more.
Yeah,
Go to
Yep.
prayer meetings, get around people that you know are doing it. Like, that's what, you know, in your business camp, you was talking about becoming a different, business leader. You don't go around and hang out with the guys, that don't have their own businesses and spending all your time trying to learn from the 9 to 5 guy punching a time clock. You get around other business owners, people that are successful, people that are doing well. You're trying to get in the room with those guys because you're wanting to learn from them. And I think even
yeah,
when it comes to spiritual life, I think we need to be looking for people to mentor us and to encourage us, like you said,
Hmm.
hold us accountable, help us out through this process. I mean, um, one thing I'd like to ask you guys, do you view prayer as a means of grace? Isn't prayer listed as one of the means of grace? We have fasting, God's word, we have prayer, we have a lot of different things that are listed as a means of grace. Is that ultimately how we should view prayer, as a means of grace? How, I've got a question. So I remember a pastor telling me one time, it might have been Wade, saying that prayer is to be like walkie talkie on the battlefield, not the household intercom system,
Mm.
where we need something and we
I like
go
that.
to the intercom to order it up or whatever. It's a battlefield walkie talkie throughout the day. We're in constant communication, you know, we got the enemy right here and bombs are going off over here, and like just that constant communication. Or to me, that's the means of grace. If I'm using it as a battlefield walkie talkie, that's helping me actually survive the the war that I'm in, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I really like that concept because that means that when you're in trouble or whatever, I mean, whatever's going on and there's, something's going south, you get on your radio and you holler and you're like, "Hey God, need
Yeah.
some help over here." So, one of you said something about the people that you surround yourself with, and I do think that's really important. And I remember what it was like to go from, maybe we commented on this in the last episode, I can't remember, but I remember what it was like to go from people saying, "I'll pray for you," and people literally praying for you right then. They were with you, they knew you needed prayer, and they would pray with you right then and there. There was no, "I will."
maybe on the sidewalk.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter. And it's a little shocking and disconcerting at first. But then you're like, "Well, that's pretty good stuff because you get what you need right then, and you know that they're doing it." Because if somebody just says they're gonna pray for you, you never know if they do or not. And you know they care for you enough
Hmm.
to just do that right there in public, maybe like you said, Kent, on the sidewalk. And that's pretty impressive. And I believe it's powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
If we thought,
there's a go
go
ahead,
ahead, King.
Alex.
No, I defer to my
You
elders.
defer. Oh man,
It's
please.
getting all
From
formal
the
on us here.
courtroom. Uh there's a level of humility I think that it takes to do that.
Hmm.
To give it and to receive it.
Yeah.
Like you can sit there. I remember the first time I got prayed for in church. I don't know if the first time. I remember being prayed for in church when it was uncomfortable for me. I
Like
just
during a
wasn't used to
service?
that. No, it's like at the end, people milling around, walking
Oh yeah.
past us, and
Yeah.
and this brother is completely comfortably just praying for me, and I
Hmm.
appreciated it. I really did.
Yeah.
But it was it takes humility on both ends, especially for some of us who maybe um I don't know what it is. Like, why wouldn't you want somebody to do that?
I don't know.
But it just messed with my head for a little while there.
Yep.
If you believe that we are living in a spiritual war zone, then I think that helps change that whole picture in my mind.
Yep.
I'll take prayer anytime I can get it, you know?
Yes. So you know what, Kent? You asked a question a long time ago. You were talking about how you've struggled to pray for sure this past week, you said maybe. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm right there with you. And I think that what you just said, Alex, resonates back with with that question because for me, I think that it's a certain complacency. Life is kind of going along okay. Nothing is really outwardly like it doesn't seem like there's any crisis. And so we're just kind of going along here. And I kind of think I've got things under control. You know, I've got my schedule and everything's just flowing along. And there's a sense of complacency. And you're like, well, we're good. Well, that ain't true. What you just said is true. We're in a battle.
Mhm.
And the devil is not complacent. The forces of evil are the furthest thing from complacent. They're
Amen.
constantly, continually, with no rest, doing everything they can to destroy everything good that they can.
Yep.
And then I'm riding down the road thinking my own petty little thoughts instead of praying. That ain't good.
Can you imagine what would happen in the kingdom of God if all believers everywhere started praying for one another and worshiping God and just spending more time obsessing with the things of the kingdom than the things of this earth, you know? I mean, I think it would radically, I mean, if you read how most revivals and most movements in past, centuries ago have happened, there's some
Hmm.
shocking testimonies of when God's people get together and start praying,
Yeah.
God moves in a way that is supernatural oftentimes, you know? And so I think so many times I get trapped up by by the evil one in this thought process that it's all up to me. I have got to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I've got to fix my life. I've got to do all this stuff. And I get caught up in that, grinding mill of thoughts of that rut of thinking that, well, if something's going to happen, it's up to me instead of really crying out and asking God to, um, direct my paths and lead me and to guide me and to,
Hmm.
reveal his will to me. And when that happens, those things start happening. God starts, all of a sudden at the end of the day, like, oh, this person came in and
Yeah.
you start seeing his hand move in all kind of ways. And I think that's often, I think it's the enemy's game is to, if he can keep us from praying, if he can keep us from communicating with God, from having that relationship with Him in that way, you know, we're no threat to Him, are we? Are we really a threat to Satan if we can parse Greek verbs and know the Scripture forward and backwards, but we never talk to God? Are we any threat to the kingdom of darkness? You know,
Yeah. Not a lot of power there.
So why do we do things? Why do human beings do things and why don't they do things?
Wow. You're going down a deep psychological rabbit hole here.
He has the answer.
What
He's trying to make me look stupid by, all right, can just tell us. Just tell us why we do things.
I mean, it's a rhetorical question in a way, maybe, but I'm not trying to make anybody look stupid. I've just been, as you've been talking, I've been trying to think through this. Why do I do something? I usually, probably still far too much, I do things for instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
You sit down and eat. I'm fixing to go sit down and eat dinner, and it's instant. Like it tastes good, it fills me up. I'm not hungry anymore. I have no problem doing that. I actually really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between if I can figure out a way to make that happen. So
Yep.
I that's instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bored, I can pick up my phone. I got instant
Yeah.
gratification. every single thing that brings long-term, what's the word I'm looking for? Prosperity isn't the word I'm looking for. Long-term, the good life in every
Mhm.
way, spiritually, physically, mentally, ta takes something besides instant gratification. I think I
Yep.
could say that truthfully.
Takes effort.
And I would say that prayer is one of those things that is way, way far away from instant gratification
Mhm.
most of the time. I'm not saying it's not meaningful. I don't know. Maybe I should back off on that a little bit. Um, I think that's why I struggle with prayer, because it's really easy for it to become this thing that I do.
Mhm.
And I'm not even saying that's all bad. Like, there's times when I pray for my family and I'm walking through the different things, praying for my wife, I'm praying for my children one at a time. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do if there's not a lot of feeling there. I think that even just praying those things can bring things to our mind, and yeah, I think it's a good thing to do. I do think there are times when the feeling is there and it's real. And you do get that, like, man, I'm really glad I prayed this morning. But there's plenty of times when it's not, heaven opens up and you're just like filled with this amazing intensity.
Yeah.
It's a long game. It really is a long game.
Right.
Or don't y'all see it that way?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And you know what? This I think you've read one of you already said this, but this is simply part of being human. I'm becoming more and more convinced of it because think about the think about the times that you were anticipating talking to or were talking to the girl you married before you married her, right? So you couldn't wait to talk to her, you couldn't wait to be with her. I mean, there was intensity of feeling, you were so enthused. Well, I saw a quote the other day that just made me laugh. And it said this. I wish I should have taken a screenshot of it, but it said something like this it was like a man talking, looking at his wife, and he's saying something like, I can't believe that I was ever nervous talking to this clown. Um, and I'm like, that is the way it is. I mean, I remember being nervous to talk to my wife before I asked her to marry me because you're like, you're thinking about it. You're like, I kind of like this girl. I think I'd like, and man, you're shook up. And then once you're engaged or whatever, then you're like, you can't be together enough. Well, I want that relationship with God too. I want that level of feeling. But if you lose that, well, I mean, maybe y'all have that same thing even today with your wife. I don't know. I'm betting not. I'm betting there's sometimes you're like, I don't even want to be with her right now. I wish she'd just go away. Well, that's normal. That's human. So if that happens with your wife, I mean, we can't even see God. And so it's going to happen with God too. But what you're saying, Kent, this thing of it taking effort, I mean, I think we need to accept that it's going to be that way and accept we're human. This is how we're built. That's God's fault too. This is how we're built. And this is the way it's going to be. And so we have to make an effort. I mean, there have been times when not long ago, my pastor called me and said, hey, do you want to eat lunch? Well, I love my pastor, love talking to him. But it didn't really work very well that day. I was busy with work, but I knew I needed to be with a brother. And so I said, yes, we're going to eat lunch together. And I took the hour and a half out of my day that it took to drive to where he was 20 minutes away to eat with him. It took an effort, but man, the benefit was amazing. Same way with prayer.
Hmm.
And I'm not the one to be sitting here preaching. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I got it down, but that's kind of how it is, I think.
Yeah.
Man, I love what you said. That's so true. It's always worth it. It's always
Yeah.
worth it, and it's also, I think it's also important to know, and this is something that I picked up from a friend of mine. Kind of got me started listening to some of Joby Martin's stuff. Um, he uses a term that I'll probably never forget. I don't know if he uses it regularly, but I know I've heard him use it a few times. He talks about corner toters. people that will, you need friends that will grab your mat, each corner of the mat, and tote you to
Ah,
Jesus. And not only is it worth it when we pray, but I think we sometimes fail to realize like how desperately not only do we need corner toters in our life, people that will carry us to Jesus when we're down, but also to be willing to be that for other people too.
yeah,
You know, think, I mean, you guys are that for me. If I need, if I need prayer, I'm going to ask you guys to pray for me. I
yeah,
have no hesitation in asking you to pray for me because I know that you guys will employ the Father on my behalf if I'm going through something really
right.
tough or hard or whatever. And I think every Christian needs to know they have some of those people in their life that can pray, that will pray,
Hmm.
that know the Lord, that not just know about God, but actually, because I know when you two guys pray to God, He's here, He listens to y'all because you have a relationship with Him. You know, the stranger uptown that just tells me he's a Christian, I'm a little less hesitant to pour my heart out to him, trusting and believing that he's going to actually talk to God about me. And if he does he even what's his relationship like with the Lord? So I think having those people in your life that you can pray for and also that will pray for you. I think it's
Hmm.
so important to have that relationship that see the value in that relationship like you saw the value in that, relationship with your pastor, friend. You're
Right.
willing to drop what you need to do to make that effort to go do that. So
Yeah. Well, I think we're probably at the end of our time. I think Kent needs to go eat dinner with his family. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I've got several more things about prayer that I want to talk about, but I don't think we have time to do that. But maybe we can do it next time or some other
I
time.
would love to have I would love to talk I would love to have another discussion on prayer. There are
Yeah.
some things specifically that I would love to get into also because
Well,
I
me
think
too.
this can go a lot of different ways here, but
Yeah. I really want to go into them right now, but we don't. It would take another
yeah,
hour.
yeah, we don't have time for sure.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so yeah, if y'all are good, maybe we'll shut it down and carry on another time.
sounds good,
Yeah.
guys. Thoroughly
Sounds
enjoyed the
good.
evening. Man.
Yep. Enjoyed it as always. Y'all have a good
Sure.
night.
Yep. Y'all too. See y'all.
See ya.
See ya.
Offensive
Yeah.
grace, how sweet the sound, the blood alone redeems. It frees the slaves and calls them sons, fulfills the law's demands. Oh, yeah. Offensive grace, how sweet the sound that tore the veil away. It shatters all the old constraints, reveals a brand new day. I once believed I had to earn to keep you satisfied, but grace declared the work was done, the blood alone applied. Offensive grace, how sweet the sound, the blood alone redeems. It frees the slaves and calls them sons, fulfills the law's demands. Oh, It's grace that breaks religion's chains, forgives the penitent, it lifts the broken from the dust, exalts the